On the show tonight, we will tell you about the bloodbath in West Asia, with Israel taking the war from Gaza to Syria and Lebanon. And we ask tonight, how much longer can West Asia endure bloodshed? And what price will peace demand? We will also tell you about a hypocritical US report on India, which seeks targeted sanctions on India's raw. What for? For the alleged mistreatment of minorities in India. On the show tonight, we will tell you why this report is hypocritical. We'll also tell you about Prime Minister Narendra Modi's snub to Bangladesh's Chief Advisor Mohammad Yunus, where in a letter, Prime Minister Modi reminds Yunus of Bangladesh's 1971 war against Pakistan. All that and a lot more lined up for you on the show tonight. Let's get you started. Our top focus on Gravitas tonight. The war that began in Gaza has now spilled across borders, leaving a trail of utter destruction and bloodshed. In Gaza alone, the lives of over 50,000 Palestinians have already been lost. And since the ceasefire crumbled on March 18th, at least 850 more have died in relentless Israeli airstrikes. And Israel has now widened its military campaign, targeting Syria and Lebanon with equal intensity. Early this morning, Israeli fighter jets bombed a shelter in Jabalia, northern Gaza. Among the dead was Abdel Latif Al-Qwana, a spokesperson for Hamas. According to Al Jazeera, the strike also wounded several others, including children. Meanwhile, in Gaza City, 6 members of the same family were killed following an Israeli strike in Khan Yunis. Israel conducted a series of airstrikes that reportedly struck 3 residential areas. According to reports, at least 1 person died in these strikes, while 3 others were injured. In Gaza's northern city of Beit Lahaya, bodies of at least 11 people have been recovered from the rubble of a residential area following an Israeli strike that occurred at early dawn. Amidst the unrelenting strikes, the death toll in Gaza continues to rise, with the enclave's health ministry reporting 25 deaths and 82 injuries in just the last 24 hours. But this war no longer stops at Gaza's borders. In southern Lebanon, Israeli strikes have killed at least 4 individuals in 2 different attacks, with Israel claiming to have targeted Hezbollah operatives in Lebanon. According to local reports, an Israeli drone attack on a car near Lebanon's Yomor killed at least 3 people, adding that simultaneously artillery shells pounded the surrounding area. The Israeli military, in a statement, said that they identified several Hezbollah militants who were transferring weapons in the area before initiating a strike. While the IDF also released footage of another drone attack in Lebanon's Marob that it said was directed at a Hezbollah battalion commander who they claim was responsible for planning attacks against Israeli civilians and troops. So we told you about Israeli airstrikes in Gaza and Lebanon. Meanwhile, Syria has not been spared either. Israeli missiles struck an ammunition warehouse in Syria's port city of Latakia. The missile barrage reportedly caused major destructions. And visuals on your screens right now show a massive explosion following the airstrikes. And amid all this chaos, where Israel continues to attack Gaza, Lebanon and Syria, Israel itself faces unrest. Thousands of Israelis are taking to the streets, demanding action to bring home hostages held by Hamas. Demonstrators have rallied outside Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's residence and the country's parliament as well, calling for immediate elections and a shift in government strategy. Bibi, however, remains defiant. In a statement to the Knesset, he threatened to seize parts of Gaza if Hamas failed to release the remaining hostages still held in Gaza.
The fighting in Gaza continues. The more Hamas continues in its refusal to release our hostages, the more powerful the repression we exert will be. And I say to you, members of the Knesset, and I say it to Hamas as well, this includes seizing territory, and it includes other things that I'm not going to specify here.
Meanwhile, the country's defense minister, Israel Katz, urged Gaza residents to evacuate as the Israeli military prepares to intensify its operations in Gaza.
Residents of Gaza, the IDF will soon operate in force in additional areas of Gaza, and you will be required to evacuate for your own protection from the combat zones. The plans are already prepared and approved. Hamas is endangering your lives and will cause you to lose your homes and more territory that will be annexed to the Israeli defense system.
West Asia is clearly on the boil. The fragile ceasefires have disintegrated, leaving countries and millions of people under the threat of escalating violence. As Israeli airstrikes stretched across Gaza, Lebanon and Syria, and demonstrations mount at home, the question remains: how much longer can this region endure such bloodshed? And more importantly, what price will peace demand in West Asia? Another day, another hypocritical US report lecturing India, while conveniently ignoring America's own intelligence operations. Here's why I say this. On Tuesday, a US panel on religious freedom recommended sanctions to be imposed on India's external spy agency, RAW. Why, if you wonder? For the alleged mistreatment of minorities in India. The panel, which is based in Washington, D.C., wants to sanction RAW over its alleged involvement in the assassination plots against Khalistani separatists and extremists overseas. The U.S. panel in question is USCIRF, or U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom. In its latest report, it has painted India's external intelligence agency as some sort of a rogue agency. Just a quick reminder here, India's RAW, or the Research and Analysis Wing, is tasked with gathering foreign intelligence, counter-terrorism, counter-proliferation, advising Indian policymakers and also advancing India's foreign strategic interests. But now, the USCIRF has accused it of overreach. And the Sikh separatists the panel shows so much sympathy for, they are terrorists in the eyes of Indian law. We are talking about a group of people who have publicly stated goals of carving out a separate country for itself, right out of the heart of India. A group of people that have targeted Indian embassies and envoys abroad. A group of people that call for the destruction of India. Naturally, New Delhi has rejected the allegations outright. The Indian government has slammed the report as yet another politically motivated attack. In response to the panel's recommendations to sanction RAW, India said it is USCIRF that should be designated internationally as an entity of concern and not RAW, especially for its repeated pattern of biased and politically motivated assessments and misrepresentation of facts. The Indian government's external affairs also raised concerns about the authenticity of this body because of its agenda-based claims. India also questioned if at all the USCIRF is even genuine in its work and whether it's truly concerned over religious freedom or not. So this is not the first time that USCIRF has made such claims against India. It is a habitual offender with a pattern of making biased and politically motivated statements, especially when it comes to India. In the past, the US agency has urged US government to designate India as a country of particular concern. It has recommended that the US government should conduct a review assessing whether arms sales to India may contribute or exacerbate religious freedom violations. And this comes after last October, where India sealed a massive deal with the US to acquire 31 Predator drones. The drones would help India strengthen its military's combat and surveillance capabilities, especially along the border with China, where Chinese troops have repeatedly tried to alter the status quo and make encroachments. And so, while the USCIRF is a bipartisan US government advisory body, its recommendations are not binding on the government. The group says it monitors religious freedom abroad and makes policy recommendations. But its reports and recommendations have consistently felt biased. While it has questioned religious freedom in India, it has never recommended sanctioning an Indian government agency. And so, this latest report is all the more astonishing. But the question being, what about the CIA's global covert wars? Would the USCIRF dare recommend sanctioning CIA for its operations in Afghanistan, Latin America and beyond? If credibility and accountability is what USCIRF is searching for, it might want to start by looking in the mirror first. We now shift our attention to Iran's growing military capabilities and the concerns raised by the United States. Well, General Anthony J. Cotton, who is the head of U.S. Strategic Command, has warned about Iran's advancements in nuclear and missile technology. According to Cotton, Iran could potentially manufacture a nuclear weapon in as little as 1 week, in just 7 days. The general also highlighted that Tehran's ongoing work on space launch vehicles could drastically reduce the time needed to manufacture an intercontinental ballistic missile. Speaking during a hearing before the U.S. Senate Armed Services Committee in Washington, D.C., General Cotton explained that Iran's nuclear program continues to expand at an alarming rate. Cotton said that Tehran has increased its stockpile of highly enriched uranium and has deployed additional advanced centrifuges that can majorly cut down the time required to manufacture weapons-grade uranium. He also pointed out that this timeline has shrunk Iran's capability of building a nuclear weapons from 10 to 15 days earlier, which Iran would take to manufacture a nuclear weapon, to less than a week. That's less than 7 days. He said that Iran has the largest arsenal of conventional ballistic missile in the region. These missiles have already been used in attacks, including strikes on Israel last year. Just for a reminder here, on October 1st last year, Iran launched around 200 ballistic missiles towards Israel as retaliation for Israel's alleged assassination of Hamas, Hezbollah and IRGC leaders. Furthermore, Cotton said, Tehran has been supplying advanced conventional weapons to non-state militia groups across West Asia, leading to attacks on U.S. and allied personnel and interests. General Cotton also spoke about Iran's advancements in space technology, specifically the development of the Simorgh satellite carrier rocket. This two-stage liquid-fueled rocket, he said, has technological similarities to an ICBM and could have a range of approximately 4,000 kilometers, while carrying a payload of around 1,000 kilograms. Another development that Cotton highlighted is the growing ties between Iran, Russia and North Korea.
There's a little different nuance. That is the new relationship that we're seeing that's happening between Russia and the DPRK. So we're talking about DPRK, we're talking about Iran, we're talking about China, as well as the Russian Federation. That's why I call them the third-party influencers, because what they could do is they could be a distraction for the main effort that could be, that could be launched by any one of those that we had mentioned.
Well, Cotton's warnings about Tehran comes as the U.S. ramps up its campaign against the Iran-backed Houthis in Yemen. And that's following a military offensive launched on March 15th. U.S. President Donald Trump has clearly said that any attack by the Houthis would be viewed as an attack by Iran itself against the U.S. Meanwhile, U.S. Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard provided additional insights during a separate Senate Intelligence Committee hearing. She stated that while Iran is not currently pursuing a nuclear weapon, discussions about nuclearization have intensified within Tehran's leadership. She also noted that Iran's stockpile of enriched uranium has reached unprecedented levels for a country without nuclear weapons. And adding to all these concerns, Iranian state media recently released footage showcasing an underground missile facility. We told you about this yesterday on the show. The footage showed rows of ballistic missiles stored underground, underscoring Iran's expanding missile capabilities. Well, as tensions rise in West Asia, Cotton's comments highlight the growing military might of Iran and its strategic alliances in the region. And shifting our focus to the Ukraine-Russia war, where fierce fighting continues along the Eastern Front. Russia is keeping up the pressure on Ukraine with wave after wave of drone attacks. In the Dnipro, a drone attack triggered fire in the central Ukrainian city where it injured 3 people. The attack reportedly destroyed apartment buildings as well as cars parked in the area, as well as enterprises and cultural facilities. Meanwhile, in Kharkiv, Russian drone attack injured 21 people and damaged residential buildings and storage facilities. Emergency services said that the attack started multiple fires in the city's center and also caused serious damage to the buildings there.
To believe Russians' commitment to ceasefire? No one believes them. They do not do anything they say they would. Were they allowed to attack us in the first place? They just erase Ukrainians, that's what they do.
Moving on to Kharkiv, which is Ukraine's second largest city and continues to be a frequent target of Russia's military and is located some 30 kilometers from the border.
This is quite a mass attack. There were about 10 to 15 explosions in Kharkiv. We are examining attack sites now. This is a very big territory, and 2 districts were under attack, Kivsky and Slobidsky districts.
And amidst all these attacks by Russia, the Ukrainian soldiers are feeling the pressure. They say that there was no time to rest as uncertainty remains over ceasefire agreements with Russia.
We have a lot of exercises, tactical medicine, camouflage, regular shooting as well. We work through all the standards, all the exercises. Quite regularly we train for assault on trenches and buildings. It is needed. The skills must be kept and multiplied. No time to rest.
The overnight attacks also reportedly left one of the frontline communities in Zaporizhia region without power and connectivity. By Thursday morning, Ukraine's Air Force said that Russia had launched 86 drones and 1 ballistic missile at Ukraine overnight. The fighting has continued despite efforts to end the war. Remember, on Tuesday, the US reached separate deals with Ukraine and Russia in Riyadh to cease fighting in the Black Sea and pause attacks against energy targets. The Kremlin has said that a number of conditions must be met before the Black Sea deal is implemented. And as those details are getting worked out, Ukraine's allies from across Europe gathered for talks in Paris in a bid to strengthen Kiev's hand as it pushes for a ceasefire with Russia. Proposals to deploy European troops in Ukraine in tandem with any peace deal with Russia are also being considered. They are calling it the coalition of the willing. French President Emmanuel Macron hosted the leaders of nearly 30 countries as well as NATO and European Union chiefs at the Elysee Palace. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has made a rather bizarre and desperate claim in his recent interview. He has said that his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin will die soon. Kiev's leader made these remarks while speaking to French journalists in a televised interview after meeting French President Emmanuel Macron in Paris. While Russia has often strongly rejected such claims, Kremlin has maintained that the Russian leader is fully fit. Zelensky said, and I'm quoting him here, Putin hopes to remain in power until his death, and his ambitions are not limited to Ukraine. He added that the Russian leader's death would bring an end to the war between the two nations. Zelensky also said it is important that the US should not bring the Russian president out of political and economic isolation. He said Ukraine was trying to steer the US narrative away from the Kremlin.
The majority of Americans have always supported us, and I am very grateful to them for that. We have had bipartisan support, and I cannot be ungrateful to America for all it has done. However, today, very often, I believe it is often under the influence of the Russian narrative, which we cannot accept, but we will continue to fight for ourselves, and we will continue to fight against this narrative wherever it comes from. We have no other choice, no other solution. We are fighting for our independence and our existence.
Well, the Ukraine president's remarks are rather awkwardly timed. It comes just because just days ago, the US led separate meetings with Russian and Ukrainian officials to bring some provisions of the proposed ceasefire into action. Washington announced its breakthrough, saying that both the sides have agreed to a naval ceasefire. The Black Sea deal is perhaps a stepping stone, as US tries to broker a durable and lasting peace agreement between Russia and Ukraine. But Zelensky's latest interview raises so many questions. Is the Ukrainian president not interested in taking forward the peace talks? Or is this a sign of growing desperation? Well, let's now tell you what else is lined up for you on the show tonight. We will tell you about North Korea's AI suicide drones. Pyongyang unveiled its attack drones in August. But on the show tonight, we ask if this new capability can be attributed to North Korea's budding alliance with Russia. We will also get you a report on why India's rich are moving out and where they are headed to. A latest report indicates that at least 22% super rich Indians wish to leave the country. And in Gravitas Trends, we will tell you about Dubai's viral chocolate, which is a slab of pistachio-filled chocolate, but it has become so viral and popular now that UK supermarket chain Waitrose has introduced a cap on the number of bars customers can buy. A massive security lapse has left the Trump administration red-faced. I'm talking about the leak from the messaging app Signal. The incident came to light when a journalist from news portal The Atlantic claimed that he was added to a group on Signal that had Trump's top cabinet members, and they were discussing military strikes on Yemen. Imagine this happened in a country which is a global superpower, has the best technology, and has Elon Musk, a tech billionaire, as one of the advisors. And this has raised several questions regarding Trump administration's intelligence sharing capabilities. However, despite embarrassment, US President Donald Trump is putting up a brave face in defending his officials. Trump tried to alleviate concerns over the leak of military plans and called it a witch hunt, and thereby downplayed the seriousness of this leak. Meanwhile, testifying to House Intelligence Committee, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard dubbed the incident a mistake. She went on further and said that no classified information was compromised in the procedure.
National Security Advisor Waltz held a press conference yesterday with a clear message. It was a mistake that a reporter was inadvertently added to a Signal chat with high-level national security principals having a policy discussion about imminent strikes against the Houthis and the effects of the strike. National Security Advisor has taken full responsibility for this, and the National Security Council is conducting an in-depth review along with technical experts working to determine how this reporter was inadvertently added to this chat. The conversation was candid and sensitive, but as the President National Security Advisor stated, no classified information was shared.
But that's not all. She went on and she dropped a shocker. Gabbard said that the encrypted app Signal comes pre-installed on government devices. So what made Gabbard make such a claim? Gabbard said that back in December, a guidance issued by the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency recommended highly targeted individuals, which includes several government personnel from the US government, to shift to apps which help in end-to-end encrypted communications. Gabbard said that Signal was one such app which was recommended to them. And Gabbard wasn't the only one to claim this. In his testimony to the Senate Intelligence Committee, CIA Director John Ratcliffe said that Signal was uploaded to his CIA devices within days of his confirmation. Now, do these claims made by Trump's officials hold enough merit? The question is, how safe is the use of the app in question? Were its security features that foolproof for US officials to use it for sharing information as sensitive as military plans of a country? Well, in the past, the Signal app has been largely unauthorized for use on government-issued devices, and not without good reason. In 2021, the Defense Department Office of the Inspector General issued multiple reports condemning a top Pentagon official for using Signal to communicate. And just last month itself, the National Security Agency reportedly warned employees of the issues that could erupt when using the Signal app, stating that the app was a high-value target to intercept sensitive information, which is precisely why the Trump administration should have exercised more caution. In yet another bizarre case, personal information like mobile numbers, email addresses, and certain passwords of Trump's top aides like Mike Waltz, Tulsi Gabbard, and Pete Hegseth have been found online. And this is according to a report by German news magazine Der Spiegel. The report said that these include cell phone numbers, email addresses, and in some cases, passwords. According to the reports, the phone numbers and email addresses, mostly current, were in some cases used for Instagram and LinkedIn profiles, cloud storage service Dropbox, and even apps that track a user's location. It said that the numbers belonging to Gabbard and Waltz were reportedly linked to accounts on messaging services WhatsApp and Signal. The German magazine further said that it left the officials exposed to having spyware installed on their devices. The magazine claimed that it had sent the provider a link to Hexet's LinkedIn profile and received Gmail address and a mobile number in return. The National Security Council said that Walt's accounts and passwords that was mentioned by the German magazine had all been changed in 2019. Even after completely backing his officials, Trump seems to be on the back foot. Trump, who brushed aside the leak as a witch hunt, did tell a Fox News reporter that he would confirm with Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth whether or not the information was classified. White House has now tapped Elon Musk to probe how Goldberg, the Atlantic journalist, was added to the Signal chat. Well, it's an unprecedented wave of embarrassment for the Trump administration and will continue to haunt the U.S. government for some time. All right, on Wednesday, U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance visited a Marine training range in Quantico, Virginia, where he interacted with the Marines and tested his skills on a series of weapons. Take a look.
Station. Yeah. First one is there's been a lot of updates to our annual rifle qualifications. Area, and then you all are going to move with tables and gloves immediately. Go ahead. Go ahead. There we go. Thank you. Sorry, sir. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. We're on,
March 26th is a significant day for Bangladesh, as it marks the country's independence from Pakistan in the year 1971. And commemorating this occasion, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has reminded his counterpart, Bangladesh's Chief Advisor Mohammad Yunus, that the spirit of the liberation war continues to be the guiding light for New Delhi's relations with Dhaka. In a rather stirring letter addressed to Yunus, Prime Minister Modi has underscored the shared history between New Delhi and Dhaka, calling on Yunus to strengthen bilateral ties based on mutual sensitivity. While such letters shared on national days are considered routine protocol, Prime Minister Modi's outreach comes amid the escalating tensions between the two countries in the recent past. And that's following the violence against Hindu minorities in Bangladesh. And that's under the Yunus government. Just to give you a bit of context here first, the Ministry of External Affairs, or the MEA, has repeatedly condemned the attacks on Hindu minorities and urged Bangladesh to ensure the safety of its religious communities and institutions. Case in point is the incarceration of Hindu monk Chinmoy Krishna Das Brahmachari, who was arrested on November 25th last year on charges of sedition. And he has been repeatedly denied bail. Chinmoy Krishna Das was the driving force behind an organization formed last year to demonstrate attacks on Hindus in Bangladesh. And his arrest led to widespread demonstrations across the nation. You see, the ties between New Delhi and Dhaka became particularly strained following the collapse of Sheikh Hasina's Awami League government in Bangladesh on August 5th, 2024. Just to revert to history now. The Indian Army had in 1971 helped the liberation warriors of East Pakistan, also known as Mukti Jodhas, to defeat the Pakistan Army and carve out the independent Bangladesh. On March 26, 1971, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman had declared the independence of Bangladesh from Pakistan, leading to the war that had given birth to the new nation. And Prime Minister Modi's reference to the Liberation War of 1971 in his message to Yunus and his interim government in Dhaka could very well be a reminder of the Indian Army's contribution to the country's liberation. Well, just a week from now, Prime Minister Modi and Yunus are supposed to come face to face for the first time at the BIMSTEC summit in Thailand. Since Yunus came to power last year, the question being, will this become the opportunity for both countries to improve their ties? That we'll have to wait and watch. All right, we now turn our attention to North Korea. The country has been actively pushing the boundaries of military technology. And in the latest such instance, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un personally oversaw the testing of advanced suicide drones equipped with AI, with artificial intelligence. Our next report telling you more.
A fixed-wing unmanned aerial vehicle targets a tank-like structure. Seconds later, it erupts into flames. In the background, you can see Kim Jong-un walking with his aides. A massive drone, larger than even a typical fighter jet, is positioned on a tarmac in the background, with Kim Jong-un observing it closely as it takes flight. These are just some of the visuals of North Korea showcasing its latest military might. And that's not all. During the demonstration, North Korea also showcased its upgraded reconnaissance drones, capable of identifying tactical targets and monitoring enemy activities both on land and at sea, to bolster their military's surveillance and combat capabilities. North Korea's ambitions extend beyond drones. The regime also unveiled its first airborne early warning aircraft, a system designed to enhance its aging air defense infrastructure. Kim Jong-un was just seen last week overseeing the test firing of the country's latest anti-aircraft missile system, yet another example of Pyongyang's growing military ambitions. In the aftermath of the latest demonstration, South Korea's military said it is skeptical about the operational effectiveness of some of the weapons, further claiming that some components in these devices may be linked to Russia.
The unveiled airborne early warning aircraft today by North Korea still requires further evaluation in terms of its operational effectiveness and utility. If you see it, you will know that it appears to be quite dull, heavy, and vulnerable to interception. We believe that the internal devices and components may have connections to Russia, and the model itself is an upgraded version of the one that North Korea previously owned.
South Korean officials believe Moscow has been supplying anti-air missiles and other air defense equipment to Pyongyang, in exchange for North Korea deploying troops to support Russia's war efforts in Ukraine. The developments highlight the ever-growing sophistication of North Korea's military arsenal. The increased focus on AI and unmanned technologies could pose significant challenges for its adversaries.
Shifting our focus now to Taiwan, where a Chinese influencer has been deported from Taiwan back to her own country. Why? After she heaped praise for Beijing online. The influencer backed Beijing's ambitions to conquer Taiwan by force. Liu Zhenya, who is married to a Taiwanese man and is a mother of 3, boarded a flight to China on Tuesday evening. She had been ordered by Taiwanese authorities to leave the country. But what was her fault? You see, as an influencer, Liu posts videos online, one of them that allegedly supported the idea of a Chinese military takeover. And that ended up getting her into trouble. In that ill-fated video, she said, and I'm quoting here, "Maybe when we wake up tomorrow morning, the island will already be covered with 5-star red flags, and it makes me happy even just thinking about it," unquote. From her remark, it is not difficult to make out that she was talking about the Chinese national flag. Taiwanese immigration officials obviously took strong objection to that, saying that Liu advocated the elimination of Taiwan's sovereignty. Liu was asked to leave Taiwan right away. And this marks the first such episode when Taiwan ordered the Chinese spouse of a local person deported over national security concerns. This has reportedly been done to step up efforts to counter Beijing's propaganda. The question being, will there be other such cases too ahead in Taiwan? As per official data, some 367,000 Chinese people have Taiwanese spouses. And this particular incident only indicates that Taiwan is on guard against pro-China talk. The deportation incident put the focus on the challenge for Taiwan to strike a fine balance between protecting their democracy in the face of the Chinese threat and also allowing freedom of speech. Taipei has to ensure that influencers like Liu, who have amassed a lot of followers online, making videos of her everyday life in Taiwan, are not at the receiving end of the government's wrath. Well, our next story will shock you to the core, especially if you are a coffee lover or someone who swears by energy drinks. A 28-year-old Florida woman, also a fitness freak, died from a sudden heart attack in August 2021. And now, her mother claims that energy drinks were the reason behind her untimely death. Katie Donnell, a teacher from Florida, also popularly known in a circle as Workout Queen, took up 3 energy drinks per day. Reportedly, not just that, she regularly consumed coffee and caffeine supplements before her workouts. Not unusual for those who work out on a daily basis and consider all these energy drinks as a staple source for energy. In August 2021, Donnell was with her friends when she suffered a heart attack. She could not be revived when the ambulance arrived. Recalling the event, her mother says that Katie was without oxygen for too long, which ultimately led to brain damage. And this is really distressing at this point of time. A young life lost in the prime of her life. What was the reason for it? According to her mother, it was her constant abuse of caffeine and energy drinks which caused her death. Energy drinks, which are rich in caffeine and sugar, are widely marketed to youngsters. The risk of an overload is all too apparent, and so are the possibilities of cardiovascular problems in the young. In the recent past, several deaths have been reported among teenagers frequently consuming energy drinks. This prompted the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, or the FDA, to put a cap on daily caffeine intake and recommend a maximum of 400 mg daily in healthy adults. But in the UK, most supermarkets have introduced a voluntary ban on sale of energy drinks to people under the age of 16. And a complete ban was proposed in England and Scotland in 2019. Well, the moral of the story being, be it soft drinks, aerated beverages, soda or any other sugary drinks, consuming in moderation is okay, or even better is cutting them for good. And that's the best way to keep your heart safe. Remember, it's not enough just to exercise or to eat clean. It's also important to avoid stimulants that may give you a temporary buzz but can be detrimental or even lethal in the long run. On Gravitas Medical Marvel today, we will tell you about a landmark decision. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration has approved a groundbreaking new treatment for urinary tract infections or UTIs. This treatment could perhaps be a game changer in the fight against antibiotic resistance. This is the first such drug to be approved in nearly 3 decades. The drug is available as a pill called Bloodbath from the drug maker GSK, which is a UK multinational pharmaceutical company. It will be used in treating uncomplicated UTIs in female adults and pediatric patients 12 years and older. The company plans to launch the drug in the US in the second half of this year. However, they have not disclosed the details on the pricing yet. Now let's tell you why the approval is so crucial. Why is it a crucial milestone for women across the world? Now, UTIs are the most common infection among women. It affects up to 16 million women annually in the US, with 30% having at least one recurrent infection. According to the drug maker, the pill, Bloodbath, will work through a mechanism inhibiting bacterial DNA replication by targeting and blocking 2 essential bacterial enzymes. In simple words, Bloodbath is capable of killing the bacteria rather than just inhibiting the bacteria growth. The approval is based on results from 2 trials, which demonstrated that 58.5% of the 277 patients treated with Bloodbath, the new pill, saw symptomatic improvement compared to 43.6% of patients taking neutrofurantoin, which is currently used to treat UTIs across the world. The trial also found that Bloodbath was superior to neutrofurantoin for treating UTI. However, it is also pertinent to tell you the side effects of this drug, of Bloodbath, the new drug. Its main side effects include diarrhea, which affects 16% of patients, and nausea, which affects 9% of participants. However, most of these events were considered mild. The world's longest-serving death prisoner from Japan, Hiroyo Hakamada, won compensation this week. Hakamada spent almost 5 decades in jail, basically most of his lifetime. He had been wrongly convicted of murder in 1966 and was exonerated only last year. Now, he has been awarded $1.4 million as compensation, a record sum for any redress formula. Hakamada owes his freedom to a judge named Hiroka Murayama, who did something pretty unthinkable in Japan's legal system, which is to order a retrial. However, it was far from easy to execute it. Prosecutors appealed the order, and it took 9 long years for the retrial to open. And it's only now that the former boxer has finally received justice. That's after spending 5 decades in jail. The financial payout is 12,500 yen, which is around $83 for each day that Hakamada spent in detention. However, this financial compensation does not rule out the fact that he spent a large part of his life in jail awaiting a death sentence. Can this money, no matter how much, really make up for the pain and hardship he went through during the years he spent in captivity? Can anything return to him the days he spent behind bars? There's a still silence to all those questions right now. Okay, are you someone with a sweet tooth and cannot resist the temptation of biting into a nice chocolate? Well, if you are, then the story is for you. Last year, slabs of pistachio-filled chocolate bars became a viral hit on social media and kicked off a Dubai chocolate trend. But what no one saw coming is the wild popularity of these Dubai bars, which raised the bar for chocolate so high, quite literally, so much so that confectionery companies are now scrambling to meet demands. Meanwhile, UK supermarket chain Waitrose has been forced to impose a limit on the chocolate, restricting it to 2 bars per person. So A buyer can only buy 2 bars of this viral chocolate, so that every customer who walks in perhaps can afford it, can enjoy a slice of this delicacy. But as you may have guessed already, these are not ordinary chocolates. Each bar is priced at £10, which is almost $12, a tad difficult for the common man to afford. But given the rate at which its stocks were cleared out, this is no less than a chocolate revolution. However, there's a catch here. Experts say that this can perhaps be a marketing stunt pulled off by Waitrose. The Lidl-style chocolate, which combines pistachio nuts and milk chocolate, among other West Asian flavors, was first created in 2021 by the Dubai company Chocolatier. And seeing how its sales have picked up, Lidl has announced it will be releasing its own version very soon. Well, that's all that we could pack for you in today's edition of Gravitas. It's now time to slip into a very short break, but we are leaving you with Gravitas Worldview. Thanks very much for watching Beyond World this one. Stay tuned.
Do you think it would be okay if we speak about it? I haven't done anything.
This week on E-Club, find out why the newest crime drama, Adolescence, has become a super hit.
Look at me now!
मुंबई नहीं जा सकते, मुंबई को इधर लाना पड़ेगा। क्या मतलब? इधर ही पिक्चर बनाते हैं ना।
Meet the cast of Superboys of Malegaon.
Let's hope all the kids in all the cities of every corner of India make films.
And know all about the trend of movie re-releases. All this and much more with me, Diksha Bisla, on WION at these times.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
This week on the West Asia Post. With strikes and counter-strikes, the US is unleashing B-2 stealth bombers on the Houthis, warning Iran against helping the Yemen-based group. In response, Tehran has unveiled its underground missile city. In Israel, the opposition is retaliating against Netanyahu's last-minute state budget and judicial bill approval. Also on the show, Turkey's president is going all out to suppress the dissent against the arrest of Istanbul's mayor. Is this about justice or simply a case of political rivalry? Catch the West Asia Post only on WION World is One.
The scenes of jubilant soldiers in Khartoum mark a significant advance in an offensive that has seen Sudan's army seize back swathes of territory in recent months. They have retaken the presidential palace and believe they are on course to win back the rest of the capital. Climate change is melting the huge ice blocks off of Africa's second highest mountain. Mount Kenya is slowly transforming from a landscape of snow and ice to brown rock. And find out why Kirsty Coventry's powerful role in sport as a 10th International Olympic Committee president is both groundbreaking and controversial. Wild of Africa at these times on WION World is One.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in. Imagine a world where owning your dream asset is just a click away, where wealth is no longer exclusive to the few. Tokenization, the game changer, transforming assets into digital opportunities. A revolutionary technology opening doors to a new era of investment. Don't miss Token Money Magnet, a bold initiative by Kalp Foundation. Only on WION World is One.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION World is One.
Ready to dive into your daily dose of news?
Bringing you what's trending in the West and all that's setting trends in the East.
And all of this served up with a side of insightful banter.
We don't just bring you the latest stories.
We bring you your talking points for the day.